Picture this. You washed up on shore on a desert island with nothing but what you packed. Thankfully, being a faithful GameRant fan, you packed your 3 favorite PlayStation games across all generations and even included their appropriate consoles and a solar-powered generator television and sound system. Mighty impressive. Which is why we asked you, dear viewer, if you could only play 3 PlayStation games for the rest of your life, what would they be? And we received some of the most unexpected answers so far. And hey, while you're here, if you want the chance to win a PlayStation 5 Pro, then listen up. All you have to do is comment on a participating thread over on GameRant.com. We'll leave the link in the description, make it easier for you. Participants must be 18 years of age or older. Premium GameRant members' comments are worth double, and newsletter subscribers will have opportunities to earn bonus entries. Contest ends on November 12, 2024 at 11:59 p.m. Pacific Time, so make sure to head over to GameRant.com before then. And now let's get on with your 3 PlayStation picks. Just to prove it's never too late to submit an answer, today we've decided to pick the very latest answer from Hassani, who replied shortly before this video was finished. Quote, "If I had to choose 3 PS exclusive games to play for the rest of my life, it would probably be Gran Turismo 7, The Last of Us Part 1, and Horizon Forbidden West." End quote. Very good list, Hassani, but the choices aren't limited to PlayStation exclusives, but I love the selection you've got here. Gran Turismo 7 is my personal favorite simulation racer. Dumping several hours to get a gold medal on a curve test is about as rewarding as anything I've done in a video game. The Last of Us Part 1 is also an interesting choice because it's so linear. However, I guess if you had to pick just one story, it doesn't get much better than this. And Horizon Forbidden West is a really clever answer. Now, personally speaking, I did not care for the story of this game, but the general world and hunting is exceptional and would guarantee to last you a long time. Up next is Corporal, who was the very first person to answer this week's question. Quote, "Legend of Legaia PS1, Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance PS2, and Champions of North Return to Arms PS2, end quote. Again, very clever maximalist list here. With Baldur's Gate and Champions of North Return to Arms, you've got 2 robust computer-style RPGs right on home console, which means plenty of replayability. But Legend of Legaia is one heck of a random choice, and I respect that. You won't find too many YouTubers gushing over this hidden gem, and that's because it's mostly still hidden. A genuine obscure classic with a unique combat system and a narrative that will make you feel, uncertain. Yeah, let's go with that. It's a real gem. Up next is Julie with a logical choice. The Witcher, Red Dead Redemption 2, Days Gone, end quote. You know what those 3 games have in common? They're all gigantic open-world adventures with hundreds upon hundreds of hours of gameplay, meaning even if you do repeat the same actions over and over again, the pure sum amount of time would probably keep each of these narratives feeling fresh. And even if you don't feel like playing the story, you can always head off and explore the beautiful open worlds, gain some collectibles, find Easter eggs, and sit down to play some Gwent. Gigantic games with compelling characters and enormous locations to get lost in. After all, if you're staying put in real life, why not get out and explore the virtual roads? Up next is Arlo, who says, quote, "I think I would choose the Ace Attorney trilogy, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and finally Astrobot," end quote. Interesting choice here, Arlo, as most of these games don't have nearly the replayability that we've seen on our list so far, but that certainly doesn't make them any less valid. Sure, Arlo might be missing out on billions of pixels, but how many games can match the pure vibe that is Ace Attorney? Ratchet & Clank only goes for so long, but how many games can match the pure joy of smacking a baddie with a wrench in 4K? Sure, you could have a big, serious, gritty open-world game, or you can experience the toy-like joy of Astrobot. That's what makes this question so difficult. Short games have a charm that simply can't be replicated. But on the other side is Spaceman Spliffs, who says, quote, "God of War HD Collection, Metal Gear Solid HD Collection, BioShock Trilogy Remaster. Yes, it's 9, but nobody specified no," end quote. Gotta respect the workaround, and really, it's a bit sad to see this PlayStation 3 era of HD remasters, as they simply did not join the future generations of PlayStation consoles. God of War 3 was released on the PlayStation 4 for some reason, and then the reboot happened. Metal Gear Solid HD Collection is another great shout. In fact, it's better than the currently available HD Collection, even though it's mostly the same game. What could that even mean? Well, Bluepoint Games, now owned by Sony, did the HD collection on the PlayStation 3, including Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, and Peace Walker, whereas the current collection is a repackaging of those Bluepoint remasters and leaves out Peace Walker HD while slotting in a pretty shoddy port of Metal Gear Solid 1. Yeesh. And hey, why not that BioShock collection, especially for BioShock 2, a game that still isn't getting the love it deserves. Up next is Mister, with a similar choice. Quote, "Marvel Spider-Man 2, Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection, Life is Strange series. I gotta have a little something of everything. I need some action-adventure, fighting, and real-life scenarios." End quote. Great choices all around. Spider-Man 2 is just about the best game on a technical level currently available, especially when you look at that wingsuit. Now, some old heads might take umbrage with the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection, as it does not feature perfect emulation. And I can respect that perspective, but if I was trapped on a desert island, who cares? Let me practice Alpha 3 all day. And Life is Strange is another great choice, as you can break the story in so many different ways, it feels like a completely new plot. Up next is Kea, who chimes in with a unique combination. Quote, "My picks are AC Odyssey, Sniper Elite 4, A Plague Tale: Innocence." End quote. And you know what those games have in common? Well, pretty much nothing. And that's why it's a clever pick. Plague Tale is your narrative, and what a narrative. It'll hit you right in the feels from the first few minutes. Sniper Elite 4 is another entry in the popular Sniper Elite series, allowing players to target practice right into some gray matter. And Assassin's Creed Odyssey might be the best open world Ubisoft has ever made, and maybe their biggest. It's years old, but if you've never played it, circle back. It's a masterpiece. Up next is Kevin, who chimes in with, quote, "Warhawk, Resistance, and Uncharted series have all been my favorites. Would always jump on one of these any given time." End quote. You won't find many people talking about Warhawk, and honestly, I'm not sure if you mean the PlayStation 1 game or the PlayStation 3 game. But either way, what a fun little series that could use more attention. And sadly, so could Resistance. Insomniac Games, yes, the people that make Ratchet & Clank, came up with this amazing alternate history first-person shooter. Heck, Part 3 is practically VR ready. And of course, our avatar for this video is Nathan Drake in the Uncharted series. Can you believe it's been 8 years since the last Uncharted? I hope you're enjoying your retirement wherever you are, you troublemaker. Up next is Sid Zero, and he has an answer that might be cheating, but we're gonna allow it. Quote, "No Man's Sky, Skyrim, and Final Fantasy XIV. I could probably bounce between these three forever, though I will miss the new experiences that other games provide." End quote. Now wait a second, are we really going to allow an MMO on this list? Well, we never said anything in the rules, so you got us there. And really, Final Fantasy XIV is the most respected MMO in the game today, keeping players happy for years on end, which is rather remarkable for a live service game. No Man's Sky is another brilliant answer, one that may have been controversial back in the day before all the free updates, but I've always been a big fan of this endless space adventure. And of course, Skyrim. It's an RPG, it's a playground, it's a meme machine. You can always find something new to do in Skyrim. Maybe that's why they keep re-releasing it. Maybe just avoid the PlayStation 3 version. Up next is King Arthur 8, who sticks to the basics and says, quote, "Minecraft, Football Club 24, and Call of Duty." End quote. Look, some folks are going to call those choices basic, and that's fine. But with Minecraft, you're essentially getting an endless game. Football Club 24 is essentially as versatile and endless as the professional sport of soccer, so yeah, lots of replayability. And if we're counting online modes, Call of Duty has single-player, multiplayer, and zombies. And presumably in this scenario, you would receive an update to each year's game. These games right here are the backbone of the industry. Everybody loves them. Up next is Mullen Gaming, who chimes in with the ever-popular choices, quote, "Would say Blasphemous, Bloodborne, and Hyper Light Drifter. Those are my favorite games of all time that are on the PlayStation." End quote. First off, love the shout out to Hyper Light Drifter, a wonderful little game that will get your blood pressure up. Blasphemous is another indie dark horse darling, combining the iconography of Catholicism with Metroidvania gameplay. But of course, we've got to talk about Bloodborne, as we do each and every single episode of Gamer Said. Hey, I'm not complaining. But seriously, without fail, Bloodborne is the most enduring popular choice regarding any subject matter. The people love it. And Sony, you might want to do something about that. Up next is Aaron, who hits us with some original picks. Quote, "Just 3. The original Crash Bandicoot, for its charm and nostalgia. Mass Effect 2 because it was the best of the series and was infinitely replayable. The Sonic Adventure 2 HD release. I'm a huge fan of the series, and SA2 was a cool feeling game. I had no other way to play it when it first came out, so I got it on PS3. Wow, I love these out of left field choices, Aaron, especially for going the Mass Effect trilogy, and it's true, really. If you could only play one Mass Effect game, there's no doubt that Part 2 packs the biggest punch, with the best characters and the most flexible story. Sonic Adventure 2 HD is another random choice, but it's a fan favorite that has endured for over 2.5 decades. And the original Crash Bandicoot. I'll be honest, this is probably my least favorite of the series, as it was so rooted in 2D shenanigans. But that's exactly why I respect this answer. Up next is KP5, who says, Quote, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 for the soundtrack alone. Edit, I would also consider subbing for Destiny though. Final Fantasy 9 for the memories and the story. Ghost of Tsushima possibly my favorite game of this era. The story, the atmosphere, the gameplay, it's a perfect combination. Big agree on Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, among the best games of all time. Simple, straightforward, endlessly replayable, and the soundtrack is pop punk and hip hop bliss. Final Fantasy 9 is an all-time classic. Following the more realistic look of Final Fantasy 8, Square went back to the classic fantasy of the earlier games in the series, delivering one of the most unique 3D RPGs to this day. And Ghost of Tsushima was another popular answer, and I can't say I'm surprised. For years, fans requested someone make an open-world samurai game somewhat in the vein of Assassin's Creed. Sucker Punch took up the challenge, added their own unique visual flair, created a compelling story, and the results were a smash hit that's being turned into a movie as we speak. And lastly this week is Lucky7, who says, quote, narrowing to games which were PS exclusives, I think I'd go with Final Fantasy VIII, The Last of Us, and the last one would be a toss-up between Cool Borders 2, Twisted Metal 4, or Tekken 3, end quote. Okay, I picked this answer not because of Final Fantasy VIII, or The Last of Us, or even Tekken 3, but if you could only play a handful of PlayStation games for the rest of your life, Cool Borders 2 and Twisted Metal 4 would be on the short list? No disrespect. In fact, double respect, because there's no way I could have predicted these choices. Twisted Metal 4 isn't exactly the most fondly remembered of the series, and Cool Borders 2 is, well, Sony put on the PlayStation Classic, so maybe there's something there I'm missing. But off-the-wall answers, I love them. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this week's episode of Gamers Said. I want to thank everyone who provided their answers for this week's question, and encourage everyone to continue the conversation in the comments below. Keep clicking around here on GameRant, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.